it's not taking the piss. It's like a loving, highlighting this special thing.
Yeah, I think
It's
especially
quite unique to the UK.
yeah, especially the bit at the end where he talks, where they talk about that at the end, and I think
Yeah,
that really sort of made it for me. I thought that was superb at the end when you get that bit at the end. I'll be honest.
yeah. Thank you,
All right, just give me 2 seconds.
thank you.
Just 15 years and I've still got no help doing this, so I end up still having a little bit. Where he talks, where they talk about that at the end, and I think that turned myself down, really sort of made so I can share it. I've hit the wrong button, that's why. But yeah, it's I enjoyed it, and I think a lot of people that I spoke to have said that they thought it was really good as well.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, I mean, we've got a bit of a story about how it got made, and well, there's quite a big reason why it hasn't been made so far. We can talk about.
Yeah. I mean, you, as I said, you can lead it wherever you need to go. It's not even.
Yeah, easy.
Just give me 2 seconds. As I say, it's just a matter of making sure. So have you got anything else coming up though? In the meantime, other than that.
Yeah, we're in the edit, we're in post production on a Christmas movie. We had like Richard E. Grant and Celia Imrie, Carl Pilkington, a couple of the guys from Game of Thrones and Bridgerton in it. We shot that last year, so that's coming out this Christmas. So it's been 2 years of non-stop Christmas, basically.
In all fairness, she's one of my favourite actresses, Celia Imrie. I think she's absolutely superb. I absolutely love her. I think she's fantastic.
She is a beautiful human as well.
She's
absolutely
in
gorgeous person.
Of course, I'm a massive Only Fools and Horses fan, but my second favourite comedy of all time was Dinner Ladies, and of course she's in that with with Victoria Wood, and it's just a phenomenal comedy. Yeah, she's
so good. She's so good at the tender stuff. I mean, I think she'll be a dame this time next year. I'm sure of it.
I'm surprised in all fairness, I'm surprised she's not already.
I was as well. Yeah, and I was even more surprised after being on Traitors she wasn't on the New Year's Honours list this year.
Yeah.
Well, that's got to be it. That's got to be what. But I'll take all the credit if this time next year, just after Christmas, she is on that list. It'll be completely and utterly down to me.
Yeah, that's when you got to turn around. That's when you got to turn around and say to her, "You got to do more films for me."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, she was a diamond.
Sorry, mate. It takes a bit of time, but just.
No, you're all right,
Once we get this out of the way, there's so many non-league groups. So what I try to do with Facebook is make sure I put it through to as many of these non-league groups as possible, and then we stick it through them all. And that way around, it normally hits okay. But do you go to watch much non-league football yourself? I know you say you're.
I do. I was at Garforth last weekend, 2 weekends ago. Grimsby were on an international break, strangely, in League Two. So I went down there, which is just around the corner from where I live near Leeds. And then I grew up going to watch Sutton United all the time.
Oh, okay.
Sort of sneak in at half time when the exit gates were open.
That's right.
Yeah, pay plenty of times as well.
You'll be amazed at how many times that happens. In non-league football, the gates come out, you see all these people just sort of like flood into the stadium, and then they announce the what's the name, the gate, and they say, the gate is da-da-da-da-da, and you think, blimey, it's a lot more than 160 in here. Do you know what I mean? But they all come in at half time.
It's mint. We go in the pub for the first time.
Yeah. Brilliant. Fun. Well, welcome to the Reposs Non-League Show, and really pleased to say that joining me tonight is Jack Spring, and of course I will let Jack tell you why he's here and what he's done. But all I will say is that if you haven't seen what he's about to promote with us tonight, it is absolutely superb. I watched it 2 or 3 times already. And it's absolutely fantastic, and you need to make sure after this show that you're pinging straight into it. It's only about 25 minutes long, but it's absolutely superb. And I said to Jack just off air, can't wait for number 2 and number 3 of it, because it's absolutely brilliant. So Jack, I mean, beginning of the week, and Is there anything you've seen? I always ask people, when they come on, is there anything you've seen in non-league football this week that sort of as you've looked at and gone, wow, I didn't expect that, even if it's sort of some of your own sides that you may have picked it up on social media or paper or anything like
I saw York City. I think they returned to the top of the National League, didn't
that?
they? Who was it? Was it? There was who were the team that they're battling out for?
Rochdale, isn't it? Is it Rochdale? I think it's
Rochdale.
Rochdale.
That's it.
Yeah.
I thought York had blown it a few weeks ago. Probably the most surprising thing as a Grimsby fan is to see Scunthorpe United doing half decent for once, confirming their National League playoff spot. And kudos to them, where you spent many a year as a Grimsby fan trying to get out of that league. And I know the owner Ian Sharp. He's in the film industry as well. He's a producer. And I was at their ground last week actually before their game against Hartlepool. So fair play. It would be nice to have the Grimsby Scunny game back, just so we can batter them twice a year. I have missed them.
Well, that's what I'm a bit concerned about in ordinary football, that my side might not be able to bat the Spurs for next season, but we'll wait and see if that pans out. But whether we see them playing Lincoln next year or not, but I don't expect it to happen. I'll be honest. I did say to people about 6-7 weeks ago that there's more chance of Arsenal blowing the league than there is of Tottenham getting relegated, and I'll sit here right now and still agree with that. After next week, of course, if we turn over Man City, which is very unlikely, I might change my tune. But at the minute, it sticks where it is at the minute. I think we'll definitely be playing Spurs next year.
It's going to be tight, isn't it? It's going to be tight.
Absolutely.
I do hope they go down, because any unsuccessful patch for a traditional top six club is always great to watch. Again, Grimsby, we beat Man U back in August, and it was probably the greatest day of my life. So to see Spurs get relegated as well, as a very kind of anti-Premier League establishment person, would be delight.
Yeah. Well, of course, the big news this week, of course, we can't not talk about it. From everybody's seen what's gone on during the week around one of the most. How can I put this? I think since I've been involved in non-league, there's been two people that have been very, very much to the forefront of trying to help me as much as they can. Of course, one was the late Anthony Hughes, and the other one, of course, was a Mr. Mark Harris. And this week he's found himself in a little bit of bother. This week, in all fairness, to me, I don't even know where to start with it. I could go on all night long, and I can't. But I'm so angry around the way the man has been treated this week through social media, through press, and everything else. It's absolutely diabolical. Some of the stuff that I've been reading online this week and seeing in print as well this week, it is really, really poor. This is a man that has given everything to non-league football at steps 3 and 4. This is a man that's made a mistake. And that's all it is. It's a mistake. Whether you see it as more serious than that, that's up to you. But the fact of the matter is, the man's made a mistake, and this is a man, as I say, that's been through ill health and has still kept that Northern Premier League going, and he's also, also kept the Trident leagues going together as well. He is, one of the pieces of glue that holds those Trident leagues together. And the man does so much for non-league football in his FA Council role that I don't know, Jack won't know, non-league fans won't know. But let me tell you, this man works tirelessly for non-league football in this country. And let's just hope, or I hope, and I'm keeping fingers crossed, that he will be back as chairman of the Northern Premier League very, very soon. Because this man, we cannot afford to have the great Mark Harris not involved in non-league football in this country. Because if we do, I think non-league football is going to struggle for a long time without Mark Harris as part of that glue that holds the Trident leagues and non-league football together. And all I'll say to Mark tonight is, Mark, keep strong, my friend, and we hope to see you back in that role that you do so very, very well.
I'd like to second that, if I may. It was Mark that actually introduced us, and about a month ago, I reached out to everyone that I could find in non-league football, Mark being one of them. And he has been nothing but extremely helpful. Has linked us to many, many people. Watched our pilot straight away. Came back. We jumped on a call, and has been nothing short of amazing.
Mm.
So yeah, I've only known Mark for the last few weeks, but I've got to say, incredibly helpful, and I echo everything you've just said.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, Jack. On a lighter note, let's talk about your your career and as well, and also as well, about what you've produced, that it's on YouTube at the moment, doing really well on YouTube as well. It's My Life in Non-League. It's absolutely brilliant from start to finish. I've sat and watched it so many times, and as I said, it's an imaginary football team as well, but I think it could ring home for every single non-league supporter or anybody that's involved in non-league football that volunteers at a club. You'll see it on there, and it just basically rings home for everybody. For me,
I'm glad. I'm glad. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is a sort of amalgamation of every character I've certainly ever met at non-league football, and it's done in a very loving tone. Celebrating what is in non-league football a very unique and precious thing, and probably. I've got the NHS and lower league football as the two things I'm distinctly proud to be British over.
mm.
The non-league pyramid in particular. You go to step 5 of the entire pyramid in France, and there's 13 people there. When National League last season, you're getting crowds of 10,000 plus. League Two, you get 25,000 at Bradford last season, and even step 3 or 4 of the non-league pyramid. Bury
Yeah.
must be getting 3,500, 4,000 most weeks. It's mental. It's so unique and so special, and I've seen a few kind of similar shows or pilots that have tried to do the non-league football thing and have come from a place of either not knowing anything about non-league football
Mm.
or just looking down on non-league football as this thing that should be kind of ridiculed and mocked. And I think we got the balance right between showing this very special, beautiful ecosystem full of these amazing people that work their asses off to keep clubs and leagues going. Our show doesn't focus on the players. I think I've rarely seen a show, maybe Ted Lasso being one of the exceptions, that does football players in an interesting way. So we wanted to avoid that. We felt that had been done, but actually focusing on the volunteers that make this imaginary club up in the northwest tick. And yeah, I'm very proud of it. I think it's a real nice bit of work. And we actually shot it 5 years ago. We shot it during COVID. Tried to get the thing commissioned the kind of traditional route. That didn't work for various reasons. And yeah, we were like, right, let's put it out there. Hopefully, come back to commissioners proving there's an audience, or at very worst, a lot of people put a lot of money and time and lent their talent, to making it. So at the very least, it's out there and people can actually see it rather than it sitting on a shelf. So yeah, we thought, let's give it a swing and at the very least get it in front of the people, the audience that would like it, and kind of non-league football fans seem the obvious first port of call.
How did you go? How did you go about getting the ground for it? Because I was trying to work out all the way through the episode where it was. And I'm sitting there thinking, where is this? Where, of course, you saw at the end where it was because you say thanks to the club at the end. But I mean, I'll let you tell everybody where it was. But how did that all come about as well?
So the two stewards in the show are the two writers, Lewis and Rob. And Rob, who plays the trainee steward, Sean, he was actually at the time the assistant manager at Atherton Collieries, which is where we shot the show. Lewis, I think, used to play for them. So and them guys, I found them guys. They'd done a sort of zero budget version of the car park traffic cone scene and put it on Twitter, and it got a few thousand hits. And someone sent it to me, and I thought, cool, that's good. And I know that world, because I grew up going to Sutton United, and Grimsby spent 6 years, I think, overall in the National League. So I'd seen a lot of this level and knew them kind of characters existed. And then we just kind of built it out. But yeah, it was Rob's link to Afton. I don't think he's there anymore. I might be wrong. But yeah, it was a lovely, very special club to film at. Again, all the volunteers were there. Filmed some of it on a match day. Filmed it, we filmed it during COVID, so it was all. I think we got shut down after 3 or 4 days because one of the people at the club had COVID. So it was fully like masks and gloves, and I think we were one of the first productions to actually start rolling again. So that was fun. But yeah, it was just a beautiful, it was stressful for many non-creative reasons, but in terms of actually making the thing, it was it was a joy. Amazing cast, amazing crew. Um, yeah, just lovely.
What was talk us through that though? That because that was probably one of the funniest parts in the whole thing was the traffic code scene because that was just brilliant
Yeah.
because you could just see that anywhere in the country where the senior students trying to show somebody how to do it, the youngsters can't be bothered. But I mean,
Yeah.
talk us through that because that must have been an absolute hoot to actually sort of like film.
Well, there's so much, I mean, I think them two characters are obviously, I think they're some of the funniest, as with the DJ Don Lennon. And there is so much that we didn't put in the episode that's still on the cutting room floor, including a scene where Sean, sorry, not Sean, Christian, the chief steward, tackles Sean, the trainee steward, on the pitch. The trainee steward is pegging it as if he's a streaker, and there's so much good stuff that But then as a director, you've got to be really disciplined and just anything that's not moving the story on. Frankly, you've got to bin. But yeah, that traffic cone scene, that was the first. It was the first thing that attracted me to the project. Because they'd shot this zero budget version on their phone. And yeah, it was, it almost felt like the one, because I'd seen that scene already with that cast and we'd basically shot the same thing again. It was probably the scene I was most relaxed about filming because they'd done it before. So yeah, and it was always, I just think it's a very well written, very well performed scene.
Yeah.
That was frankly already there before I came on, so I can take zero credit for.
So how much of that though? How much was it sort of like? Was it yourself trying to get the sort of the team together for the cast together for the actual film, or you got people there to help you out? And how did you go about getting the right people for it? Because it felt like to me you've got 100%. You've got the right people in the right places because it was just so funny.
Yeah, I mean, it started, as I said, I'd seen this video on Twitter and I just signed with an agent at the time that was keen to get me into TV. And he said, let's go find you some projects to do. And then literally an hour later, I'd seen this thing pop up on Twitter and I was thought, let's go for that. I've always been quite good in my career as director. One of my biggest assets is my ability to probably raise money for the projects that we're making, because you need substantial amounts of cash to make, this thing that we're talking about is the cheapest thing I've ever made by about 20-fold, but still required substantial amounts of cash to be raised during the biggest economic crisis of a generation. So it was a big challenge. So I had to go raise the money, and had my business partner to this day. We first met because he'd invested in this. I think two or three of my people that have just invested in my movie. I met during this process, so it was good. And then actually, then when we had the money, we could get the crew together and cast it. We deliberately went visually for TV over film. People that shoot documentary, because that's basically how we shot this. And it took a little bit of calibrating. I'd only ever done film before, so the way that you shoot a mockumentary is highly different. You've almost got everything you've learnt about using the camera as a cinematic device or a comedic device or a dramatic device. You've got to beat out yourself, because you've got to do it in this very strict kind of rule book that I kept having to remind myself of. Because it was very different to anything. I'd only ever done movies before, and they're just totally different beasts. So we picked two camera guys that had done documentary. My head of sound, Neil, he's someone that I still work with to this day. He's doing the sound as we speak on the movie that we just shot. And yeah, it was just a great team. And then actually casting the roles, we held. We put a casting call out, as you would for most things. If you're not casting big famous names, basically, you put a casting call out, and people send in they'll do a scene on their webcam and send it in. And then we had hundreds of them, and then we went up to Atherton Collieries in that clubhouse that we shot that we shot in, and did auditions. And it was just minute. We just got to mess around and play with these actors, and because the whole thing is really a lot of play. There's a lot of improv. It's very loose. You're using the script really as a sort of structural device, and using a lot of the dialogue, but very much allowing them to come off so it feels real. Again, a big difference to a movie where really 95% of the time you're on script. And yeah, we just, I think you're right. I think we got the right people, and it's always the case after you've shot something. The idea of anyone else doing that role is just so weird. But I do think, I think, for me as a director, one of the things I've always been pretty good at is A, working with cast, and B, picking the right people. I'd say I've got a pretty good hit rate throughout my career of casting the right people. And work, and getting good performances out of them. It's always what I prided myself, prouded myself on.
Proud, yeah.
The word?
Proud, just proud. Yeah,
proud. Yeah, just proud. And yeah, it was, and then I used my usual gang to edit it and put it together, and it was a there was stuff. Afterwards we had, there was a bit of a split from the writers. The writers wanted to edit it in a very different way that was just, very much using the improv stuff and almost abandoning their own script in a way. And just, it was just like a montage of funny stuff rather than kind of what felt like a TV episode. And that's one of the big shames. There was this kind of divide really after we'd shot the thing. And there's another version of this show exists out there that we had to show the commissioners, because TV is very much a writer's medium rather than directors. So it's kind of the writers are the bosses really, rather than me, who would be on a film. So it was a shame because the film industry have only seen this other version that is just sort of a YouTube reel of funny stuff rather than a cohesive episode with stakes and pacing, and so that there was definitely a bit of a sour taste, having raised all that money and made something as good as I did, that the writers wanted to splinter off and basically make their own sort of thing with the sort of shared material. So yeah, although we made this really nice thing, it has always felt like the one blot on my career of something I've not been able to deliver to the fullest of my abilities, because this kind of splinter happened, which is a shame. But here we are today. She lives. She's out there finally, albeit a few years later. But yeah, there is this sort of a shame, because I think it could have had a chance a lot sooner of getting made. And fingers crossed it still does. But yeah, it was a joy to work on, really.
I mean, the fact I think one of the things in is you say so much of it was so sort of like so close to what you see in any of these teams and grounds and stuff, especially with the young lady behind the bar trying to get the ladies to play on there and only allowed to play one game on the pitch, and and having to get them changed in their cars. And I still remember, I run ladies teams and we were never allowed on the first team pitch at, I won't say the club, but at the club that we had the ladies team for. And you couldn't get on the pitch. You got one game on the pitch, which just happened to be the county cup final. They'd let you play it on there, and this sort of stuff. And the girls are getting changed in cars, and and because and this sort of stuff. So there's so much on there that was actually so close to what you've experienced yourself as well. I think a lot of people will actually probably feel exactly the same.
I'm glad. I mean, it's a big job as a director to have your characters essentially resonate with your audience, right? And particularly, first and foremost for us, an audience that like non-league football or no non-league football. Or, I think if you're going to make something that's trying to touch people, or connect people, whatever the right word is, and you can't make that happen with the people that actually really know that world, then you've probably not hit the bullseye. You've probably gone mad. And I felt that's what other shows had done wrong previously, or not done well previously. So I'm glad, man. I mean, look, I'm not one of the writers. I can't take credit for, the words on the page. I can take credit for, being the person that got the thing made, directed it. There was, between me and the writers, cast it. But really as a director, frankly, you're the conductor. Everyone else is playing the music. I don't write. I can't act. I can't use a camera. Don't know where to put lights. God knows how a microphone works. I think directors do get, frankly, too much credit. But you are, without a conductor, everyone's playing different different instruments. So we've got a role, but it's that everyone else is playing the music, if you like.
So how? So if it goes well, goes really well, which everybody's hoping it does go really well. Is it going to be easy to get the same cast back, or do you think you might have to, if you do go into sort of like a full scale sort of like series or whatever else, you might have to sort of mix and match, maybe even find a different grounds, as well to actually film it at?
God knows. I mean, yeah, if there was a bite from a commissioner, if we did get to put this to series, there's a lot of work to do with the writers first and foremost. There is, the conversations with commissioners around cast. I mean, TV's film. You very much got to cast big names because you're spending millions of pounds, and you have to make your money back at least. So there's commercial reasons. Whereas TV is not, is nowhere near as sort of, you know, driven by big names. So yeah, we had this conversation when we were putting it together. We made no promises to the cast, beyond the pilot episode because frankly, it wouldn't be our decision. If it was my decision, I'd use every single one of them. Again, they were brilliant. They were a joy to work with. I'd use the same crew. I'd use the same club. I'd do it all again exactly how we did it, frankly. But the entertainment industry rarely works like that. So who knows? Who knows? Whether they want the same director. It's so you don't know. But you'd like to hope that we're in that room having that conversation because we've done a half decent job. But who knows? I mean, also, we made this 5 years ago. I'm further on in my career now, so doing a smaller TV thing is perhaps not the right move, sort of career wise. But I did have a lot of fun doing it, and it is a lovely project. But it was half a decade ago that we shot it. When my career was in a different place. So we'll see. But anyone giving you a load of money to make something, you ain't gonna walk away.
No. So talk to us about your film as well, because we were talking about that before we came on here. I mean, you've moved forward now into the sort of film industry as well now, and doing really well.
Yeah, we're getting there. I'd done one movie before we shot this, but it was super small, no big names. And then after we shot Life in Non-League, I think a couple of years later, shot my second movie, which we sold to Netflix. A film called 3 Day Millionaire with Colin Meaney. Was a big name in that. And then in October, November, just gone, we shot what's my biggest movie to date by quite a way with Celia Imrie, Richard E. Grant, Carl Pilkington, John Bradley, who was Sam Tarly in Game of Thrones, Adwoa Ando, who was Lady Danbury in Bridgerton, Carl Pilkington, Alex McQueen, who's Neil's dad in In-Betweeners. It was like a lovely, like stellar, beautiful, unbelievable cast. People like Anne Mitchell, Nigel Planer, who was in The Young Ones.
Yep.
All sorts, yeah, like just lovely, unbelievable cast, unbelievable crew. A lot bigger budget than I've had to work with before, which is really nice. And it's just a joy, We as I said, off the back of doing Life in Non-League, even though it's essentially thus far been a failure of a project. I met Andrew Pettit, who co-owns Grimsby Town. I was trying to acquire it at the time. He liked what we did on that, and then we founded a production company together, which has made all these movies. So I've been extremely fortunate to have that sort of backing from him, and he's such a wonderful business partner. And yeah, this is our latest movie, but it's been even this movie. I think we shot Life in Non-League around the same time, 2020. That I came up with the idea for this Christmas movie. It's a Christmas movie, by the way. So it's been 5 years, so I'm tired. I'm at the very back end now, but by July I'm finished after 5 years. So I'm going to take July and August off and just sit in a cave for 2 months and then work out what to do next. But I want to end up doing the kind of movies I grew up on: the Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, Dodgeball, Anchorman. That's where I want to end up, doing them larger scale American sort of comedies. But all of my work has heart in it, and I think Life in Non-League does as well. It's got quite a lot of heart. So doing them kind of movies, but bringing a bit more heart and emotion, if you like, to them. So yeah, the next plan is America. but I think we'll let Donald Trump either get kicked out of government or worse before we venture over there. So yeah, we'll see. I want to work in Australia as well. It's a place that I go every year, love it. So I'm looking for basically any excuse to do something out there next year. But yeah, it's definitely a job that looks more glamorous than the reality. 95% of my job is raising money or getting scripts good enough to shoot. Both of which are important roles, and have been thoroughly needed to get every project that I have ever worked on off the ground. But yeah, I am after 5 years on this one in desperate need of a little break because I'm tired.
Some people would say, why does it take 5 years? I mean, some people would, people that don't know the film industry would look at it and go, 5 years, really? Do you know what I mean? So I mean, we were only watching. I know it sounds silly, but we was watching like the Claudia Wilkerman show the other night, and somebody was on there talking about directing, and they were saying that directing is probably one of the hardest things because you're talking away, and it was I think it was James McAvoy had done a film coming out, and he was talking, and he was basically, I don't know if you saw it, and he was basically saying you're trying to direct. You're trying to star in it yourself, and then someone's talking to you about the toilets are not available, and we've got no toilets, and stuff like this. And I mean, is that true? Is that sort of stuff you have to organise?
Yeah. So strangely, California Scheming, the film that he just directed, I went to watch on Friday. It was the first movie that I was supposed to direct. Didn't end up directing because bloody McAvoy got it, and then then went to watch it. And to be fair, he did an unbelievable job. Like it was, the script had got significantly better from the last one I had read, and he got the tone spot on, which was always going to be the tricky thing with that movie. You got the balance between the naughtiness, without ever going cheesy, and getting the whole American thing right without ever feeling kind of hammy. So yeah, kudos. But I've listened to his interview with Ramesh Ranganathan where he talks similarly because that was his directorial debut. And yeah, I mean, given what I spend most of my career doing, the raising money and getting a script, that's the hard bit for me. The directing bit is all about prep, and I'm a very prep-driven director. I took myself to Spain for 3 months last year, no internet for 4 days a week, just so that I can sit with my laptop with Microsoft Word open and, go through my process scene by scene, do 3 scenes a day. There's 147 scenes in a movie, and the last movie we did, some a lot more, some less. So there's a hell of a load of prep, and that's once you've got the money, and like, as I said, we've spent £3.5 million on this, and that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to find. You can't just, especially like I'm not from money background. I didn't know anyone in the film industry. I didn't have a head start. You've got to build up this trust and contact book and and all that. So I think if I didn't have to raise the money, and hopefully I get to a point where I also don't have to spend years getting the script right. It's quite common that when you get to a point as a director, scripts are sent to you that are ready and have money. I get scripts all the time, but none of them have got money. It's like, oh, Jack, we fucking fundraise my movie. So it's a very different ask. But yeah, I'm hoping that that scripts will come, and you can. You could probably. I think the quickest you could probably do one is one every 2.5 years if you didn't have that. The money and the scripts have to get right, but it just takes so long. There's 9 months of prep, 3 months of shooting, 9 months in the edit at the very, at least. So yeah, it just takes long. You just think about what you're making. It's like a conglomerate of like every single art form with so many layers, there's 100+ people at least on a set, all doing a job, all need to know what they're doing. The amount of prep that goes into it, and the amount of prep as a director you don't even see. You've got trailers and trailers of production people organising everything for down the tracks. 99.9% of what happens on a film set, I don't see. I'm not privy to because it's their job to stop. I shouldn't be worrying that the toilets are messed up. But yeah, it does. On the budget that McAvoy made, it's very similar budget. And we had producers cleaning toilets, and we had I don't know, the most sort of amateur thing we had to deal with. Each one gets less amateur. But I remember on the last one, the one before this one, I had to buy my own director's chair. Uh, which I haven't stopped moaning about, if you haven't noticed. But yeah, you know, every career has an up and a down, and I'm hoping we can keep going that way for a bit longer.
So, what was it like directing somebody as famous as Celia? I mean, how was that nervous for you as well?
Nah, I remember on my last movie we had Robbie G, who was in Snatch, and Colomini, and I was very nervous because they were the first kind of names that I directed. So that was scary. But on this one again, because by the point you're even casting, you've done all your prep. You know the script better than the writer. You know it better than anyone on this planet. And I'm also very honest. If I don't know something, it's not like a director should. Isn't supposed to. It's not like a military dictatorship where you have to. Everything is micromanaged. Like it's very collaborative and questions. You're often directing in questions because you don't want to tell the cast the answer. You want them to come up with it, and then they're way more wedded to the solution. But my job is, I'm in enough of my career now that I'm using, at pretty much all times, good playable direction that cast respects and can actually play off. And I think Celia was meant. We had some good deep conversations on the characters. She was really committed. All the cast were. And she was just mint, and just like to watch someone like that, and it's still too early for me to actually watch it on a cinema screen. But to actually see her, some of the shots we've got of her are just beautiful, and her performance is unbelievable. She had some of my favourite scenes of the movie on paper, and she smashed it. And yeah, she's a class act. I keep seeing her. She's come up on the Uber Eats adverts now. She's got starring role in them. You see the Jude Law ones that have been running for the last couple of months. Yeah, she's doing the next batch. I saw the first one the other day. So yeah, national treasure, and she only come onto the film. We had someone else for that role. I'm probably not allowed to say who, but someone not as big as Celia, and but a good chunk of our finance was contingent on Richard E. Grant and this other actress doing it. And then this other actress pulled out 3 weeks before we started shooting, and we're like, "Uh-oh." But luckily, we called up Celia's people, and they were up for it. And so yeah, in many ways, she literally did save the movie because it all would have fallen apart, which happens all the time in the film industry. You think you're making something, and then you're like 2 weeks out, something happens, and you're like, no, she was great, man.
When does the film come out? I'm assuming it's going to be Christmas time, is it?
Yeah. So if I was a betting man, I'd say the third week of November would be the slot that we would want. It'll be in cinemas. We've already had offers for UK theatrical, quite a few. So it's almost guaranteed to be in cinemas. The tricky thing with a Christmas movie is people probably aren't going to go to the cinema to watch Christmas movies before third week of November, and they ain't going to go after Christmas Day. So you've got till Christmas Eve. So yeah, we want to smash that window. I think we have made one of, if not the best British Christmas film of the last decade, and that sounds like a bit of a grandiose statement. I just don't think any of the ones that the UK have turned out are any good at all. And I know how much how long and hard you have to work to get a film made, but I don't think a single British Christmas movie has been made for the right reason in the last decade. They're all the same, they're just Hallmark movies, but British.
Yeah, in all fairness, I think the last decent sort of new Christmas movie I saw was Last Christmas, the Wham one.
Yeah,
only because I don't know why. I think it's maybe because of the music. I don't know what it was, but and I must admit, I did get the twist at the end, about halfway through. I must admit, but
I just think the bar, it's weird. It's like the only art form in the world that exists where audiences are perfectly happy to watch mediocre stuff. Or like, and you take it for any art form, like it's weird. An audience kind of wants a very set thing, these very set beats, which we have. But like, I just think we made a film with love. You know, like it's really well made, and you know, a lot of Christmas movies they're just shot like TV. They all look the same. They all feel cheap. You know, just nasty, and you know, people are clearly making them just to make some cash rather than make something
Yeah.
half decent, which just annoys me. So I'm quite happy to call it out for what it is.
And what's the film called?
It's called Merry Christmas, Aubrey Flint. And yeah, it should be landing in cinemas back end of November. We go to Cannes Film Festival in 4 weeks. It starts, no, 4 weeks. It starts a month yesterday. So yeah, we pretty much know what we're doing in the UK. And then you do your international sales, so all of your foreign distributors will buy they'll go and watch the film at the screenings at Cannes and then buy it from there. But yeah, we're pretty confident. We've done some really exciting test screenings, and it's scored infinitely times better than anything else I've ever made, which is both a good and a bad thing, I guess. But yeah, I think I really think it's again, directors take way too much credit. For we just stand at the front and wave the stick. Everyone else brings the talent. Frankly, we just do our own work and know how to wave the stick. But yeah, I'm really excited for it to come out. I think it's going to go down really well, and I think we got something really nice on our hands there.
So we're going to see you and Celia and Richard E. Grant on Graham Norton and that sort of sometime in November, then, yeah.
I hope it's not me, because I think we've got a cast that it doesn't have to be me. This, not that I'd be invited, but no, I would imagine you'll see the cast. Yeah, I want to see John Bradley, who's I've never seen Game of Thrones. Samuel Tarly,
yeah.
He's the lead, and what a boy, by the way. Man U fan, so when we beat them, that was funny. Whenever we had to be sad in the movie, I just like to say, remember when Grimsby beat Man U? How did you feel then? He really enjoyed that. And yeah, I want to see him on the side of a bus. That'd be my personal ego aim, to see me born on a bus. But yeah, I think it's going to get a decent release in the UK. And let's see. I think it's all shot and set in York, so it's kind of the Harry Potter Christmas that America knows. To appeal to America, you either do Royal or Harry Potter, and can't go near the Royals at the minute, so we're not left with much choice. But yeah, I'll be glad for a break. But I don't like when it comes out. I hate it. Like that, the process of releasing it. If I could do my job in a fantasy land where you spend all this money and time and everyone's talent, and you get to make it, finish it, put it in a box, no one else watches it, I'd bite your hand off, man. Because honestly, I hate it. And I've only ever released 2 movies, both very mediocre. Whereas this one I think is a lot better. So maybe I'll have a different experience. But I just hate it. I don't like. I can't do compliments very well, and I can't do bad reviews very well. So it's just a nightmare. I can't win.
Jack, let me introduce you. So the man that's joined us, he's Craig, and he's one of the coaches, the number one man, Mr. Murphertown himself. So he has joined us. So I don't know if you've heard any of the conversation beforehand, Craig. So Jack's just made a TV program. Would we say on YouTube called A Life in Non-League Football? And if you haven't seen it, mate, you need to go and watch it. It's absolutely sensational. It really is.
I've seen clips of it. Yeah. I've seen clips of it, and it's on my watch list, but I haven't actually seen it. So no, I have actually. I know what it's about. I know if I'm up to date on that.
It's absolutely brilliant. I've watched it 2 or 3 times. It's fantastic. But I mean, with Murphy, I mean, it's dropped off a little bit, but still doing better than. I was going to say a little bit, but I mean, we're now outside the playoffs. Just outside there, and I saw again today. And I think we haven't spoke now probably for 2 or 3 weeks, but we spoke then about sort of unrest and supporter wise, and I've seen stuff on there again today, and you think this is crazy, man. This is like a team that and hopefully don't take this the wrong way, but if you went into that team as into that league, everybody thought you're probably going to struggle and possibly even come back down, into the Southern League. and you've done incredibly well. In fact, far I would have thought succeeded anything you expected to do in the first place.
Yeah.
And I just don't get that. I just don't. I see they were blaming somebody today, but I didn't get a gist of who they were actually blaming. But it's just like it's just craziness, isn't it?
I haven't seen anything today, so I've been busy there, so I haven't been on social media or anything, so I'm not up to date with that. But yeah, there's a lot going on at the moment, away from the pitch. There's things going on with the amount of security and police we're having involved in games, and there's a lot of unhappy supporters at the moment with people threatening not to come again because they feel like they're turning up and they're being searched and frisked and to go into a game, and we've never had any trouble at the ground. And all of a sudden, this, 3/4 of the way through the season, more than that, and things have changed massively. So I know there was a game recently where we had something like 26 security plus police there. We played Oxford. We had lots of security there for that, and I think Oxford only brought 20 fans, and we get on great with Oxford. They're lovely people. We were drinking in their bar when we went away, and there's a lot of fans and happy with it at the moment. So yeah, there's lots going on at the moment on and off the pitch, and it's just one of those things. I think we've been a little bit of a victim of our own success to a certain point, if I'm honest.
Is that a club's choice though, or is it something from the local
Well,
authorities?
there's these new laws coming in now. This Martin's law, which says that for a big event, if you have, I think it's something like if you have 100 people, you have to have one security for every 100 people you have in there. For a bigger scale event, then it might be two security for every 100 you have there, something like that. So we're kind of preparing for that a little bit, but it seems a little bit excessive at the moment, considering that we've not had any trouble. There's a lot of segregation at our games recently, and it doesn't seem to be a need for it. And people come to non-league football for to speak to these other supporters of other clubs and to be able to build those relationships. And we've always got on well with 99.9% of the clubs. And I know Saturday we played Macclesfield, and they were expected to bring 250 to 300 with them, and so there was segregation. And when we played them away, there was segregation, but there wasn't any trouble. And supporters are saying, well, we're having to talk to each other through fences to the away fans, and there's no issues there. There's nothing been happening. There was I know there was a photo put up yesterday, I believe, with security kind of telling the Macclesfield fans, calm down if you type of thing, when they've just scored a goal. And I don't know if it was a winning goal or whatever in the 86th minute, whatever. Well, there's no harm being done. There was nothing going on, and people are going to celebrate and enjoy themselves in those moments. So yeah, it does seem a little bit maybe over the top at the moment, but I think the club are preparing for further down the line when these new laws come in. But yeah, it's just been maybe a breakdown in communication a little bit, and people are getting a little bit frustrated at the moment. Maybe if we were winning more games of football, they wouldn't be bothered about that.
I mean, you're talking about frustration. How frustrating is it for yourselves and Paul and the rest of the management team when you are sort of doing so well and either winning a game or drawing a game, and you keep conceding those really late goals to sort of turn it around the opposite way? That must be so frustrating. And how do you put your finger on it of how to actually sort of stop that from happening?
It's really frustrating, and there's different ways of looking at it. We have to be better defensively, but maybe if we take more chances, then when they do score late on, they're already out of the game, type of thing, which was happening earlier in the season. And we're not quite as clinical at the moment, and we're not putting teams to bed, so there's always a chance late on. And if they're saying, you don't take your chances, it's going to come back and bite you, and that's certainly happened with us in the last couple of months, to be honest. So we've dropped a lot of points from good positions, from winning positions, and what have you. And it's concerning at the moment, but we just got to keep doing what we do and believe in what we're doing, and see what happens. And like as you said, we were one of the favourites, if not the favourites, to get relegated this year. Having just come up. We've got a game tomorrow night, and if we win that, we're back into fifth. So for all the concerns and the panic and the worry at the start of the season, if you'd said you'd be fifth with 2 games left, and it's kind of in your hands, 2 tough games, but we'd have bit your hand off of that start of the season. So there's still a lot of positives. It just shows how good we've been over the course of the season. And what will be. We've done all the hard work, and there's 3 games to go. Still a lot of travelling, and yeah, we'll see where it takes us.
I mean, what's with it though as well, Craig? I mean, as you said, it's done so well to, you look at some of those fixtures tomorrow night, away to Marine tomorrow night, South Shields have got to play Macclesfield, Kidderminster have got to go to Ratcliffe. So there's some, the big boys have still got to play each other as well. I mean, if you get to that stage, you get into the playoffs and either win the playoffs or stay where you are. What do you think the plan will be for next year? Will it be, would you think Paul will be looking at certain areas of the team to try and strengthen? Would it be I suppose, certain people looking from the outside in would probably say, well, maybe you've just lost this player and this player in the January transfer window. We need to make sure we've got a bit more firepower going into next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's no secret that losing Ricardo and Cole, to be fair, who chipped in with goals, is a huge loss for us. And I believe if they were both stayed with us and they were both fit, I believe we're probably going into the last 3 games fighting for the league title. That's they were that important. I mean, I think Ricardo's he's not played for us since December the 30th. I think he's still the league's third top scorer, which is just phenomenal. So I would have expected him with the start he'd had to probably be on around 45 goals come into the season, which it's unprecedented to get that many goals in your first go at that level. So if that happens and you add those goals to us, then I believe that we're challenging at the top. So look, we've got boys at the club who are still scoring goals, who are still good players, but they're not that polished kind of forward yet. And it's about being in the right place at the right time. And Rick would sniff out goals in that box as well as being able to create something. He'd be able to sniff out those goals, and maybe we're lacking there a little bit. So it's definitely an area we'd be looking at bringing someone in to assist the boys that we've already got there, and maybe help them and take some of the pressure and take the burden off them a little bit. So but I mean, I think everybody in football is looking for that goal scorer. They're so hard to come by. It's very difficult, and I don't know where we go and find that, but we will be looking. We have been looking. We will have identified players, and it's whether we can get them in, and that'll be the plan. And we need to tighten up our back line a little bit, whether that's with players coming in. We've got a couple of players on loan who are playing in the back line at the moment, so if they get called back, we need to strengthen a little bit there as well. But that'd be the case whether we were to win the league, whether we were to get relegated. You're always looking how we can improve and move forward. So I don't think there's anything new there really. And we've still got a real good core of players there who we certainly weren't. And the manager mentioned in a meeting recently, Ricardo and Cole were unbelievable for us. They were brilliant, but the others still had to chip in and supply them and all that. So it's not like we've become a bad team overnight, and those players are not good enough. We just need that little bit more help and support in those areas, maybe. So,
I mean, looking at it, I mean, the 3 games you got left, I'm laughing because I've just seen what the 3 are, because we knew from the beginning. Marine, as we said, then you're going to play Scarborough away, and then of course you might have a team there. But I was really hoping that the way things were going, they'd already have it all sewn up. And then they go and let you down at the weekend and lose at the weekend. And they got
it doesn't work out like that for us. It doesn't work out like that. So even tomorrow now, we're playing Marine away tomorrow, which is in Liverpool, and Liverpool are home to PSG tomorrow. So the amount of traffic we're gonna have to try and fight through to get in and out of Liverpool tomorrow. Like we're kicking off at 7:45. We'll leave in Merthyr at 2:00 tomorrow to travel up, and we're probably not getting home till 2 or 3 in the morning by the time we get back, and then into work Wednesday, possibly training on Thursday, and then we have to leave at 2:00 Friday to travel up to stay in a hotel in Leeds before doing the rest of the trip up to the game in Scarborough on Saturday. So it's 3 tough games as well, and Marine is still fighting. If they win their 3 games, they can make the playoffs. So they're 3 tough games, but that's what this level of football is, and we'll meet that challenge head on and see what happens tomorrow and what happens next Saturday and the following Saturday. And like I say, whatever happens, it's been a good season. Start of the season, we would have taken top 10 finish. However, from where we were back in kind of January, February, those times, it's disappointing, and there is a lot of frustration from supporters, and rightly so. I understand it, but I think when we step back when the season's done and say, well, we finished in the top 10 in the National League North, one of a few clubs who are not full time or hybrid, I think it's been a successful season overall for us, to be fair.
And that could be a bit lively tomorrow night, couldn't it, if Liverpool managed to score 3?
Yeah, it could be very interesting trying to get out there when they're all partying and celebrating. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to be getting out of there.
Jack, have you ever been to Merthyr?
Never,
No.
never. I should.
It's a great ground. It's a fantastic ground and a fantastic
Yeah,
bunch of
lot
people.
lot of history there. A lot of history there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he's a fantastic guy. When you go to the atmosphere, he's second to none in non-league football. If there's a ground that's got a better atmosphere than Merthyr, honestly, it's unreal. It really is. It's
Well, I wish you all the best, especially against Scarborough, who don't think we quite qualify as Grimsby's rivals, but they're not far off. Hope you batter them lads.
Yeah, much appreciated. I hope we do as well too. So yeah, thanks.
I mean, it's as you say, you win tomorrow night, you go back into fifth, and and I'm just looking to see, if let's have a quick look on this. So flying of what 3 points in front, but South Shields have got the game in hand.
Game in hand. Yeah, no, it's good.
Which,
The league title's going to come out the last game of the season, and one of those teams that side who's currently top is away to us. So it'll be a very interesting. It could be a lot of stake that for that game. To be fair, however, we could win the next two games and we're safe in the playoffs. Whatever happens anyway. So look, we can't look too far ahead. We just got to try and get a result tomorrow. It should be tough.
but they've got Macclesfield. South Shields got Macclesfield, so.
I've said this for a while. Everybody has to play each other still, and it's just. I think. I don't know. Does the South Shields who they got last game of the season? Is that possibly Kidderminster?
And I'll let you know now. So they are playing. South Shields are at home to Bedford Town.
Last game of the season.
And there is something there, though, because I don't know if you've noticed, because it would be a case of, you'd expect South Shields to win that quite easily, but
yeah, I know what you're going to say.
The manager has resigned.
Yes, his last game.
Game for Bedford Town on that game against South Shields. So that again is not necessary, because those players are going to be pumped for that, aren't they?
Yeah. And Bedford going forward, I think they're a real good attack inside. To be fair to them, they struggle against us defensively in the two games, but going forward, I was quite impressed with Bedford as an attacking force. So. Yeah, look, there's going to be a lot of pressure on that last day, whatever happens. But,
in fact, I should say that's the last but one game. Sorry, hadn't gone far enough. So South Shields on the final day are, where are they? I can't even see them. Kidderminster away.
Yeah. I thought so. Yeah. Because at one point it was the top four playing each other, because we were fourth, Kiddie were third, and it was the top four playing each other last day of the season to make it really interesting. But
that's two tough games for South Shields, though.
Yeah, I think they're a very good side. We've only played Fylde once, obviously, so it's a bit unfair comparing them. But from our experience against them, I felt that South Shields were the best team that we had played. If I'm honest, the football they played they out-footballed us, and we do play a lot of football, and we found it hard to get a grip to them. So no, I think they're a very, very good side, and Fylde have got a good goal scorer in Ormerod up front, so it'll be a real good shootout last couple of games. And like I say, Kidderminster are also a very, very strong side, so it's really is all to play for going into the last two games of the season.
Well, how are Bedford and Kidderminster in the Conference North? How on earth have they worked that out?
We're
that's
more
like
south.
a London, isn't it?
Yeah, but we are more south than they are. So
that's crazy.
We could actually be moved into the National League South next year, depending on who comes down and who comes up. And so if Gloucester win the playoff, Gloucester are slightly more north than us, so they would go in the north and we'd go in the south. So it's insane.
Is one league known to be harder than the other? Is there a league?
I think if you actually look at it name wise, isn't it? If you go by name, and you start rattling off, and Jack, I'll tell you, just give me 2 seconds, and I'll rattle off some of the names that are in this in the North Division. And I'm not saying it's the harder league, but I'm just.
I'm saying it's the harder.
Yeah. I was just trying to be diplomatic. You've got Flying, who were National League not so long ago. You've got Telford in there as well. You've got Chester. You've got Darlington, Hereford, Kidderminster. You've got Macclesfield. You've got Scarborough. You've got South Shields in there. So you've got some real sort of like. What should we say? Natural sort of English league teams that are in that division.
But I think it's also the physicality of it as well. You know, you talk about the southern softies down here compared to up north, but the way the game is kind of played is a lot more contact seems to be allowed in the North League compared to the South Leagues. The referees allow a lot more contact and shirt pulling and fouls that compared to what we saw when we first came into it. We had a real shock with it. It took us a bit of time to adjust to the level of contact that was allowed. And speaking to people who are in the Southern League, they'll tell you the same thing, that the physicality is totally different. So yeah, personally, from what I can gather and what I've seen, I would say the North League at the moment is the stronger. Like you say, some of those big clubs in there, and there's a lot of, I think there's a lot more full-time sides in the North than there is the South as well, which is obviously, you know, a massive advantage if you're full-time compared to us training twice a week. So yeah, I think the cup runs as well would say that the sides in the North have gone further than the sides in the South, which is a better way to probably judge it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, you know, South, you got teams that probably were biggest in Maidstone. Torquay United are in there.
Yeah, big club. Yeah,
believe it or not, you know. But then other than that, you really haven't got anybody that. Don't get me wrong, they're big sides in non-league, like Chelmsford and Maidenhead and these sort of sides, and you know. But you haven't got the names in South. I think that's the best way to put it. These names, you know. All right, if you end up in the South next year, you're going to have a nice little trip down to Truro.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think we played South Shields away a couple of weeks back, and we took quite a few hundred up with us. There was supporters flying up, there was supporters, and a couple of us, so me and Jamie Cogman, the goalkeeper, the secretary Jack Hodgkins, and a lord, we stayed up and we had a great weekend up in Newcastle, and it was the weekend of Newcastle Sunderland as well, so we were there for the derby, and we had a great time. Supporters loved it. And I know a lot of our supporters would actually rather stay in the North because the trips and the nights out are far better in the North than they are in the South, is what they're saying. But in terms of competitiveness and our chances of maybe progressing from that league, I think, and I might be wrong, I might be shot down in flames come next season if we move into the South and we struggle in the South and we go, no, then it was definitely harder than the North. But I think looking at, like I say, our sides have progressed in the Cup. I think the North has been a tougher league, to be honest, last couple of years.
So you've got Morecambe and Brackley, I would assume, going into the North next year. And you've got Braintree Town and Truro going into the South.
And we don't know what's happening with the playoffs yet either, because, like I say, Gloucester are going to be in the playoffs. So if Gloucester were to win the playoffs, well, they're more North than us. So they could potentially be moved into the North, which could mean we get moved into the South. It's difficult for us in terms of recruiting players as well, because we can't tell them at the moment which league we're likely to be in, which is difficult. Because, I mean, realistically, we could be in one of three leagues, because we could win the playoffs and go up, which on our form you'd say is unlikely at the moment. But you got that scenario. You got the scenario where we stay in this league, and you got the scenario where we move into the South. So in terms of trying to, you asked earlier about recruiting players. We don't know which level we're recruiting at. We don't know. There's a player last season who didn't want to sign for us because he was going into the North League, and he didn't want to do that travelling. Whereas if we were in the South, he would have signed. So maybe next season he comes and signs for us, and it'd be a big signing for us. So it's really difficult at the moment.
So Harborough, I'm assuming, would go into the. I think they've already said they're expecting to go into the North, because they're the champions of the Central League as well. And then Walton and Hersham will go into the South.
Yeah.
Right? So they'll be there. And then, as you say, it's Gloucester, Farnham, Port, at the moment, or Berkhamsted.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because, I mean, in terms of distance, it is a bit further in the north, but you go to some of those clubs and you end up travelling into London for the games, and it might not be as far, but in terms of time that it takes to get through London and around the outskirts of London, it can take just as long to get to some of those places as it can some of the places up north as well. So it's a difficult one, but look, it's out of our hands. We can't do anything about that. We'll just see what cards we dealt come end of the season, and we'll make plans from there.
There you go. I'll make a statement now. If you get into the playoffs, knowing Mr. Michael, you'll be in the National League next year.
Yeah, it's a big call on our current form. Yeah, I think we might even be bottom one in the form table at the moment.
I'll still take it. I'll still take that.
But yeah, maybe they'll underestimate us, and Paul will come up with a plan for us, and we might surprise a few. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, listen, mate. Well, listen, guys, time's run away from us. Really appreciate you coming on, Jack. It's been fantastic, and really do hope your the Christmas film goes really, really well, and also as well that it gets picked up as well. Life in non-league, because I thought it was absolutely outstanding. And if there's anybody out there, TV companies, etc., that you need to pick it up, because I think it. Non-league's a big old following these days, and I think that is absolutely superb. And you'll enjoy it, Craig, when you get to see it. I promise you, it is absolutely. So, a massive thank you, Jack, for coming on. And don't forget, me and Craig are free whatever night is the red carpet is. Just so you know.
It might be on a playoff final for the mighty Merthyr, so you might. Best of luck to you guys as well. And
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And Craig, a massive thank you, as always. And from everybody else, a massive thank you as well. One last thing, of course, keep strong, Mr. Mark, and as well. And also next week, I'm going to be joined by Steve Massey. And of course, Steve Massey, is the director of football for Helston down in lovely Cornwall. And of course, also an ex-Stockport player as well. So he won't be best pleased that they lost 3-1 to Luton at the weekend. And he was at Wembley as well, so he won't be. I don't think he's going to be best pleased, but he's going to hope that his side win, of course, in the FA Vase final. Not his own side, but the side that he does commentary for in Stoneham. So he'd be hoping against that. Me, I'll be hoping Cop Foster's win. But so it'll be interesting to have that conversation with him next week as well. But from me, from Jack, and from Craig, thanks for watching tonight, and good night.